Other aspects of environmental shamanism I want to turn to what I will call chemicals in the home. Now here's a short answer. There shouldn't be any. The ones I'm referring to, I'm particularly concerned about, are plug-in air fresheners that have become incredibly popular over the last 2 to 3 years. And I'm increasingly surprised by the number of homes I go into where I find these plug-in air fresheners. The old-fashioned air fresheners were bad enough because they were basically slowly distributing toxic chemicals into the room air, but the plug-ins were even worse because they use electricity to make the whole toxic substance come out even faster. So the person is literally living in a toxic chemical soup, but they're completely unaware of it. The only answer to the toxic chemical air fresheners is to unplug it and throw it in the bin and never buy another one. Other things to be aware of is toilet cleaners. I'm not concerned about the bleach. I mean, that is toxic, it's true, but it's not on the level of horror I'm referring to. I'm referring to things like the special devices which you can put in the toilet and the water turns blue. There's a particular chemical called paradichlorobenzene. It smells really toxic. Just don't use things like that, really best to avoid them. Then the next thing I'd like us to move on to is another aspect of chemicals in the home, which is the actual chemicals we deliberately and quite consciously choose to put into our bodies. And here's a strange one. Toothpaste. More than 90% of all toothpaste in this country contains either sodium monofluorophosphate or sodium fluoride. And I'm now going to introduce you to a particular class of chemicals which are all basically consciousness dampeners and brain inhibitors. So yeah, they actually affect your ability to think. That's pretty serious, isn't it? And yes, fluoride, it's a waste product of the aluminium smelting industry. They're not allowed to dump it legally, but they're allowed to put minute amounts of it into toothpaste, and they're even allowed to put it into tablets. Some dentists will actually suggest people take fluoride tablets. God help the poor people that do, because what you're doing is you're actually damaging your consciousness. So what you want to do is to find a toothpaste which doesn't contain fluoride. This opens up one of the bigger subjects, which is if you want to become consciously aware and not have yourself unintentionally poisoned, you need to start to learn to read labels. You need to learn to read labels on every foodstuff you buy until you're familiar with what it contains, and also any other products that you may be purchasing, such as toothpaste. The alternative to toothpaste is to buy the ones without the fluoride. They're rare. I recommend Tom's or Aloe Dents. They're both fluoride free. But what I prefer to use is something called sodium bicarbonate. It costs a fraction of the price of toothpaste. It does a far better job than conventional toothpaste. And I say that on authority, the authority of my dentist and my oral hygienist. They've both seen me twice now since I switched from toothpaste to sodium bicarbonate, and they've made a point at each time of saying, "You're caring for your teeth so much better than you used to." And I'm thinking, well, there's only one thing I've changed, and that's I now use sodium bicarbonate. You buy it from the baking section in the supermarket or the shop, 70–80p, container lasts you ages, and you just wet your brush, dip your brush into the bicarb and give them a decent brushing. It really works very well. Next subject, cosmetics and deodorants. It's just another excuse to put some toxic chemical into your body. And if you're talking about deodorants and cosmetics, then I introduce you to the world of the parabens. The parabens are all toxics, substances which didn't used to exist so many years ago. We really want to avoid these products at all possible. When it comes to deodorants, this is going to sound strange, but the very same thing you can use to keep your teeth clean and your mouth fresh happens to be perfect to use as an alternative deodorant. Now, some people don't feel they need to use deodorants, that's fine. But people who do feel they need to do deodorants, they're actually putting something really toxic into their system. Some of them even contain aluminium, which is just crazy, but they do. So give up the deodorants and just give yourself a good wash, and then get some of the bicarb and just rub it under your armpits or wherever you feel you want to put it. It doesn't cause any allergic reaction. It quite quickly dissolves, and it gives you protection from the smell. So if you want to use it as deodorant, that's what I recommend you do. When it comes to cosmetics, you really might start to pay more attention to what's on the label and consider what it is that you use and what value you get for it. That's something to consider. So now let's go into what I think is perhaps, I don't know why I'm going to say I think it's the most important. It's just my interest, my predilection. I've always been interested in food, nutrition and diet. There's so much damage that people do to themselves through what they actually choose to consciously consume in foods and drinks. So I've mentioned the first of what I would call the quartet of horrors, and that is fluoride. in all forms. The next thing I want to introduce you to is the 3 accompaniments of that, and they are sodium saccharin, aspartame and acetylsulfame K. They are in a horrifyingly wide range of products, from such things as basically all diet products are suspect. Until you've read the label, there's a chance it might contain 1, 2 or all 3 of those products. So here's an irony. People who are starting to take a bit more care of themselves, concerned about their weight, wanting to lose weight, taking diet products, they're unintentionally poisoning themselves with up to 3 really nasty toxic chemicals. They're implicated with cancer, they're implicated with severe loss of brain function. Really not a good idea. All diet drinks are highly suspect, diet foods most suspect, and they're also found in lots of other products. To my horror, I discovered I've been using a weight gain product that they sell to bodybuilders. I didn't realise, I foolishly just assumed my son recommended it to me. I thought I'm not even going to look at the label of the ingredients. That was a foolish mistake to make, because there it was in bold as brass, acetylsulfame K, one of the 3 nasties. So do be careful about what you put in your body in terms of foods and drinks. Look at the labels and see what's on there. Apart from those 3, the other one to mention is MSG, monosodium glutamate. It's another toxic substance which you could do with avoiding. Sad to say, but most Chinese restaurants put large amounts of MSG in the food because it's a flavour enhancer. And certain products, there's a particular crisp which is not a crisp really, it's actually reconstituted potato. It comes in a cardboard tube, I'm not going to mention the name. It's got flavour enhancers in every single variety except for the plain. The plain, to my knowledge, doesn't, but all the others have that kind of thing in. Junk food. Almost all junk food can be guaranteed to be chock full of all sorts of chemicals that you don't want. And then there's a whole other issue, which is, my goodness me, what about anything that you put in your body that's not organic? It's going to have chemical fertilizers, pesticides. You can see where I'm going with all this. Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want to take you into this place of, oh, it's all so terrible, oh dear, it's all so awful. No, no, it's a matter of just taking stock of what you're putting into your system, having a real good consideration about it, becoming a label reader and thinking to yourself this very simple rule: if I don't understand what that ingredient is on the label, it's probably not going to do me any good. Another classic thing to look at the number of E numbers in the product. Ice cream, you can buy ice cream with no E numbers, you can buy ice cream that's organic. Some ice cream has as many as 3 or even 5 separate E numbers in there, apart from the sugar, which isn't so good for us, we all know that anyway. And here's the thing, if you've got a choice between sugar and diet products, please just go for the sugar. Although it's not sugar, the diet products are so much worse with these chemical sweeteners. That's another one, chemical sweeteners. I know people, I had a client come to me recently who confessed that she was consuming chemical sweeteners, and she had 2 sessions, and the second session was some days after the first, and she said, I thought about it and I realised I was actually addicted to them. So that's the thing, some of these things, the aspartame, the acetylsulfame K, they've actually got addictive qualities too. So back to the food thing, do everything you can do to avoid the additives into your food. That's really very, very helpful. Where possible, where available, go for the organic option. It's obviously got less toxic substances, there's no pesticide residues in there. That's a great step in the right direction. And here's another issue. Now this one might seem a bit, you might think I'm getting a bit fussy here, or a bit arcane, or a bit specialised, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Imagine you went round to someone's house for dinner and they said to you, oh, by the way, I hope you don't mind, but I actually cooked this food a week ago. It spent the last 6 or 7 days in the fridge. You take one look at them and think, well, thank you very much for not having your dinner. Now, go into any supermarket in the country, go to the chilled cabinet section and just talk your way through this process. Someone somewhere has, in a big factory, cooked up huge vats of whatever it is you're buying, cannelloni, I don't care what it is. They've cooked up huge vats of this food. They've then packaged it. It's then been transported from the factory to a warehouse by vehicle. It sits in the warehouse, it gets taken into another vehicle. This vehicle transports to the supermarket and then goes into the back of the supermarket, spends some more hours there. It gets taken out by the people, put in the shelves, and it's got a sell-by date and a use-by date. Just think about how long it is from the fresh original ingredients to you eating that product. Not very good, is it? Give you another example. Smoothies. You find smoothies for sale. Now just think about this. Someone gets perfectly good fresh fruits and they blend them up in a gigantic industrial blender, And it's the same story. How many days has gone by from when that fruit was fresh to when you're consuming it? And do you let it sit in the fridge for a few days before you even drink it? What I'm introducing to is the concept of vitality in your nutrition. The more food you can eat that is full of life, the more full of life you're going to be.